Hello, guys. I am back with another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and the message reads like this. Dear brother Nashi, I am failing to sleep as we are speaking because I really need to confess. Brother Nashi, I want to confess that I am a fake pastor and I have lied to the children of God. I have caused so many problems. I have committed so many crimes, and at this time, let me leave my past behind. Unfortunately, I won't say my location, but the main reason for writing this is to get things off my chest because, after all, I am a human being. There are days when I sit and I just start asking myself a lot of questions. As a human being, sometimes you can try to avoid all of the bad things that you know you do. You just say, no, I am doing this for the money. But there is something that is inside the human's brain that you will never understand. There are many nights when I just sit in my bed and I keep on asking myself a lot of questions. I just want to tell people that I think that we are living in the last days. All of this, it was because of the love of self and fame. This caused me to leave the good ways and I chose to do the wrong things. Yes, I made a conscious decision to do all of the wrong things. I got myself into trouble all because of the love of worldly things. I was advised that in order for me to become powerful, I had to find powers because we all know that people love miracles. I used to be that person who will not hesitate to pay actors to come onto the stage and pretend to be blind. Then immediately they will start to see, doing it for my glorification. Because the money was not enough, I had people who were doing a lot of stuff that I am not even proud of. I even married someone just for the convenience to get what I wanted. Nothing and nobody would stop me. I had relationships with women in church, especially those who like to be seen and to be respected by the church pastors. Some ladies would come with very personal prayers. Some of these ladies, they are the ones that will lead you into temptations, because some of them, first they would come into my office pretending as if they are all holy, then they will start telling me all of their problems. Then in the end, they will tell me that they want to have a baby with me, just like that, especially those who had fertility problems. Those were the desperate ones, and I would take advantage of them. But I never forced anyone. Each and every time that I would speak with a woman, I would ask her first, are you sure that you want to do this with me? And most of these women, they will end up begging just to get in bed with me. I don't know what they were thinking they will achieve if they went into bed with me, but most of them, they kept on getting into bed with me. In the end, my brother, I just found out that I was infected by HIV, and I know that the way that I got this HIV infection, it was because I was dating a lot of these women. Ever since I became sexually active, I was someone who hated using protection. So when I started sleeping with all of these ladies, I kept on not using protection, and it felt so nice. Even though they say that you can never be sure who infected you with HIV, but I just suspect that there was this other woman. She must be the one who infected me with HIV, because most of the women that I was sleeping with, they were faithful women, and they were married women who were married in church. So even when I was sleeping with them, most of these women that I was most of the women that I was sleeping with, they'll end up telling me of their past experiences, and according to them, either I'll be the second man that they would have gotten into bed with apart from their husband, or most of them, they will just tell me that ever since that they got married, they never experienced making love to another man, only their husbands. But there was this other woman. I suspect that she was the one who infected me. One day, there was this other lady. We had been married for 3 years. She came to me and she was desperate. She really needed a child to save her marriage. her in-law, they have been giving her a difficult time, and they had already suggested that the husband must marry someone else. So this was the only hope, and I had to pray for her. Being a prophet of doom, I knew I did not have the power to get her pregnant miraculously, only if I did what all other prophets did. So I told her that she had to come to my office and she would do what the Lord will tell her to do. She came to the office and I started praying, pretending to pray for her while I was touching her body. I told you that this was the only way she would stay in that marriage. This is what I told her. And I know she was very desperate because this was going to be like a golden ticket for her to stay into that marriage. At first, when she refused to have intercourse with me, I asked her a simple question and I said, "You are not working, are you?" Then she said, "No." "Is your husband working?" Then she said, "Yes." And I asked her and I said, "What will happen if your husband divorces you and you do not have any child with him?" She had no option but to give in. I told her that we had to do this 3 times as the spirits had told me. So this will be 3 times each and every week. 1 for the Father, 1 for the Son, and 1 for the Holy Spirit each and every week. So she should come and we will do this procreation process, and in the process I'll be praying and pretending to be praying for her, and it was just wrong. I knew it. I knew that all these things that I was doing was wrong. This is why I keep on feeling so guilty, because all the confidence that I had, it was just confidence that came straight from the devil himself. Who in their right mind can say what I said to that woman? It was just, even today, I feel like the devil was speaking through my mouth, because that was just blasphemy that I was saying. There is no one who can ever think of such a thing. So the first week we did it, and we did it the second week. The next month she came, then she told me that she was pregnant. She was very excited, and when I was sleeping with her, each and every day, I will tell her that when you go back to your husband, please make sure that you have intercourse with your husband, no matter how tired you will be. Well, then that woman and her husband, they came back, then they thanked me and I prayed for them. But I then spoke with that woman again. I told her that we needed to make this pregnancy that she was carrying, we had to fortify her so that the witches will not take her baby. So this woman, she kept on coming back to my office. When she was 3 months old, she came. Then when she was almost 7 months old, then she delivered the baby. And the whole church thought that I was a parcel of God. And yet behind the scenes, I was busy sleeping with their wives. At this point in time, I can't even sleep properly. There are days whereby I have to take sleeping tablets because I keep on thinking of all the evil stuff that I did. And I don't even want to say which country I come from, because some people, maybe they'll end up recognizing me. How it all began, I went to this church, and when we got to that church, we wanted the power and we were told to meet the pastor later on. Then later on, after having a meeting with that pastor, he told me that we pray, yes, we pray, because people just believe in God. But what can we do? All of these people, they want miracles. So if you want to be powerful like me, I can help you. He took me to this other friend of his who were worshiping the dark side. They told me that this was very simple. What is it that you wanted? That was the question that I was asked when I was speaking with that man who then assisted me. I said I wanted power and I wanted it. I wanted to be able to perform miracles, because I knew that if I perform miracles, then money would follow me. I was told point blank that this was not possible if I didn't do something to make me stronger. I had to give a sacrifice, and my problem is that I had to do it physically. Confessing it is not easy. What I'm about to say really breaks my heart, and this is the reason why I can't even sleep each and every night. So there was this other night when one of those people came and collected me at this poor village that I was staying in. I was amazed to see such big cars. I got into that big car. Then they traveled back with me to the city. When I was in the city, they booked me at this certain lodge. On another day, they came, then they took me. I then met that same man who had told me that he was going to help me to be powerful so that I can perform all of these miracles. But he said that you are supposed to kill a certain animal that will come and try to attack you. That is how they tricked me. They took me, then they put me into a soccer field, and I was told that I should fight with that one animal. Before I could think properly, they then asked me who was my favorite person in my family. I told them that my mom was my best. I loved my mom so much. Then they said, it is okay. For you to be famous, you have to stab the animal that is going to come and appear before you, but try to stab that animal right into its heart. I waited and I waited. Then one of those men came and he handed me something that looked like an old spear. At that moment, after he had handed me that old spear, I saw in a vision that there was a baboon. This baboon came straight towards me. It was running towards me, and it was an angry baboon. It was a female baboon. Something said, "Stop, what are you doing?" But I then ignored the voice that was whispering in my heart. I lifted that spear, then I stabbed that baboon right on the left side. After I had stabbed that baboon in my vision, then it just disappeared. They all started clapping their hands. Then they came to that place where I had fallen down. They picked me up. Then they placed me into this other SUV. I was too tired at that time because of the way that I was fighting with that baboon. The next time that I woke up, I saw that I was in a church. But when I looked around that church, it amazed me because the church was filled with gold. The walls were coated with gold. I never understood what kind of a church it was because in my country, with all the poverty that is there, I had never heard of such a place who would ever coat the inside of a church with gold. People would just come and steal. Whilst I was still processing everything that was happening, then that man who was wearing a black robe, he came. Then he said, lift him up. Then they took me to this table that looked more like an altar. I could not even stand properly. So those men who had came and fetched me when I was in the village, they came, then they stood next to me so that they can support me, one on the right, then one on the left. That man then started performing a lot of rituals, and he then opened this other bowl that was filled with blood. Then he asked me, do you know what this is? I said, this looks like a heart, but I don't know if it is a human heart or if it is a heart of an animal. Then he said, what you are seeing is the heart of that baboon that you just stabbed with that spear. Do you still remember? Then I started remembering everything that was going on. Here I was looking for powers. So we then continued with the rituals. They made me to eat the heart of that baboon, but it was not cooked. After I had finished eating that heart of the baboon, they made me to drink the blood that was left inside that bowl. So I did. After this, my friend then collected me. Then I went and I slept at his house. I was very tired. The next thing that happened, I traveled back to the village. Whilst we were traveling back to the village, that is when I received a phone call from my sister. She was crying on the phone. Then she just dropped the call. I didn't know what was going on. 5 minutes of me arriving at home, that is when I saw people gathered at our house. And when I got off from the car, that is when I learned that my mother had died. And they told me that my mother had died at around 12 midnight. It was on that same night when those men had performed all of this ritual. But when I was at my mother's funeral, something strange kept on happening, because whenever I would look at her coffin, she would just wake up and she would open her coffin. Then she would walk to the place where I would be sitting. Then she would start screaming at me. She would be calling my name, but her voice was filled with an echo. It was really scary. But I think those men had done something to me because I was not even scared. I actually looked at her straight in the eyes. I still remember that my little sister, she came to the place where I was sitting. Then she said, "Brother, what is wrong? I know that we just lost our mother, but the way that you are staring at our mother's coffin, even people are starting to wonder." So all this whilst I was caught up in that vision, when I was seeing my mother getting out of her coffin and trying to attack me, everyone who was at that funeral was just looking at me and they were wondering, why is it I was staring at my mother's coffin like that? So what had happened is that when I thought that I was killing that baboon, well, it was my mother who was being murdered. It was just a spirit, but I was fighting with my mom. I hated myself and I hated my pastor friends, and they were quick to call me and they said that we had everything that happened. I was never heartbroken like this, but they told me that this was for the good. I was going to enjoy life after all. One of my friends whom I had gone with to that church, he then said, "You have to take heart. Let us focus on the goal that we have been given. Don't you want to be rich? Everything that we have done, it cannot be undone." I cried so much and we buried my mom and I went back to the city. This time around, I was staying with this certain pastor. This pastor that I was staying with, if you could hear him preaching, you will say, "Here is the man of God," but what he does in the background, people do not even know. There were days when that pastor and his wife would call me at their dining table. I don't understand. Maybe those are the rules that they follow. But that pastor and his wife, they don't share the same dining table with their kids. They have their own dining table. Whenever food will be ready, their kids will be sitting on another table. Then they'll be busy eating. That pastor and his wife, they'll be sitting on this big table. It is a very big table and it has a lot of chairs, and all of those chairs will be empty. So the first time that I was eating with them, he just said, "All of these chairs that you are looking at, they are waiting for the angels, and each plate that will be on that dining table will be filled with food." I never had the chance to investigate whether those angels will come and eat the food, because most of the times after eating, they will tell me to go back to my room because I was staying in the guest house. So when I started staying with them, I was someone who was always sad. Then one day that pastor told me that the sacrifice had been done and I had to find a way to move on with my life. Otherwise, they were going to kick me out of their house. And if they kicked me out of their house, there was no one in this world who was going to offer me help. They told me that you cannot try to cover split milk. You just have to move on. I had to move on, and I was told that this was just the beginning of my journey. I was going to become the most powerful pastor if it was possible, even in the region. But he told me that if you want to become the most powerful pastor in our region, then more sacrifices had to be done. Hey, dear listeners, right there was a message that I received that was forwarded to me by one of our admins. Please let us speak about this issue in the comment section. That dear brother of ours, he is confessing that he is just a fake pastor. Strange things do happen. Let us meet again in the following episode.